Good morning again, and many thanks for sticking around to Smart Means Business. It's a good morning from us here at Plot 42 Nile Avenue, 4 minutes of 9 o'clock. Our conversations are heading into the Business Insight as usual at this particular time. Well, of course, we've got more conversations coming up today as we are looking further into the new regulations in this particular financial year that we are in, 2023-2024, which already kicked off a week ago on the 1st of July, and it will be coming to the end 30th June 2024. So 52.7 trillion shillings were allocated for this financial year, and of which every other allocation means that the various allocations or sectors have to at least, and the regulations have to be implemented in one way or the other. But simply to put this into proper context, we shall definitely be rotating around the regulations and what needs to really be done, and of course trying to understand more of some of the things that are actually making it difficult for the government to at least push for certain things, because at times we tend to push blame on the government on matters to do with the social and economic well-being of the country, but rather we tend not to focus on certain few things that may be hindering this progress. But besides that, as we're heading into our Business Insight this morning, remember to be part of the investment world by kickstarting your investments with the ZABU platform. *292# is the USSD code that you need to use to kickstart off your investment journey with ZABU. ZABU is a platform powered by Alltech East Africa, which does remind you to do something new. And what something new can you do today is by investing in government bonds. With just a minimum of 15,000 Ugandan shillings, you'll be able to kickstart off your investments with ZABU. The markets on the platform are open from 8:15 a.m. and their closing time at 3:15 p.m. East African Standard Time. You should as well note that these markets are fully closed during the weekends and on public holidays. ZABU, my money, my future. All right, now my guest in studio this morning is Kiza Francis, and Kiza Francis is the CEO of Keys Financial Solutions Limited. Good morning, and many thanks for joining us.
Hi, John Paul. Thanks for inviting me here.
Okay.
It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. A pleasure is ours to actually take you through these discussions. Looking into, before we even get into these questions, how do you find the year 2023 so far? We are into the last half of the year. We've moved for 7 months now.
Literally, it's moving at a very fast pace. Things are on a fast move. Actually, you can't even track time anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally, you were thinking months could slow down and things could be done, but even the after COVID effects and how the economy has been moving, it's still on a fast pace. It is now 7 months to the end of the year, and literally you see most of the plans that have been made by several entities have not been able to achieve them, just because we are in a rush, and a lot has been happening in the last 7 months. So literally, it's moving on a very fast pace.
Okay. Yeah. Let's look at moving into this financial year now, because our topic of discussion is looking into the government regulations that we are looking at. What regulations, if you're to just break down a little bit more of these few regulations that we have this financial year, or the laws that the government has actually enacted already, which are those ones that we have that you think have a direct impact on the Ugandan people and the business community?
Well, a lot of bills were tabled like in the parliament. There are a lot of bills, and then there are several amendments that have been made in the acts. But literally, if I'm to pick one that will have a lot of impact in the economy, it's basically the income tax amendment, the Amendment Act of 2003.
Yes.
There's a lot that has been done in form of for reforms. The Ministry of Finance, when they were reading the budget, several of them were identified. But basically, in the income tax amendment, the amendment that has been done, you will find there are a lot of things that were brought into place. Like if I'm to give an example, you'll find there was no tax on agent banking, but then there has been the government has introduced withholding tax, 10% on withholding tax on
the agent banking. You know, when you mention agent banking, yesterday we were having a discussion here in relation to Ugandans shifting away from banking halls. We've come to realize most Ugandans are not are no longer comfortable with going to banks, by the way. You know, and the reason behind it is, one, the agent banking. The rise of mobile money, you know, services and everything. Most of the Ugandans are not, you know, are now rushing away from the... is this a good sign, positive sign for the growth of the economy, or should our banks be worried about this kind of elevation?
No, I don't think the banks could be worried. Actually, it is to their advantage that people are using agent banking or mobile money from your phone to the bank. Because literally, you find that the branches will actually, they will reduce on operation costs, the number of tellers in the branches and whatever. So literally, it is to their advantage. They can't be worried, and I think they actually want it to be like that.
So at least they have more numbers coming on board.
But literally now what I'm looking at is, if government comes out to tax agent banking, which has just been introduced and people are adopting to it, and then it may put some kind of fear for people who are starting up the agent banking businesses. But to the bankers, I think it is a good move. Wherever they see that people are running away from going to lines, making lines, it's better using smart, like a digital way of banking.
Well, as you've mentioned, the income tax amendment bill here, but also looking into 2023, at the start of 2023, we've been having some issues as a country from the private sector. Let's first drive this to the private sector. We've had issues with these days. People have actually been facing various issues or, you know, different challenges here and there in regards to what they feel should be addressed by the end of the year. Things have not been moving well for everybody. There are people who have moved swiftly anyway. It is never a balanced world. So when you look at this year, by the look of things, where do you think, you know, we've missed, you know, looking at deeply? Because our policymakers always make sure they look at, you know, what is affecting Ugandans. That is upon which they decide on what to include in the national budget or in the different allocations. Looking into this financial year, what do you think the government should focus on as well to create ample space for the business community?
Literally, when you look at, like, giving the context of the income tax amendment, the basis, the tax man will want to get the market, like, to maximize tax from wherever he can, to get tax from, like, the society from where, or, like, in any way possible he would want to maximize. But then, as the taxpayers, we want to pay the least that we can afford. So literally, we want to pay the least, he wants to maximize. When you look at the target that has been set to Uganda Revenue Authority for this financial year, I think 29.7 trillion, and it has come from domestic revenue collections. The previous revenue, like the target that was for the previous financial year was about 23 billion. So literally, there's an upside. There has been an increase in the target. But then from the same economy that has been suffering several challenges. So literally, when you look at whatever has been put as the amendments, there are some to be happy about. You'll be happy about certain items, but then there are those that are going to affect the economy, especially to the private sector. But given the challenges that are happening, let's look at there's competition for funding between the government and the private sector. So the government is borrowing from the banks, where also the private sector businesses are also borrowing. So literally, that means there's going to be competition. And when there is competition, you realize that the gap that has been created, there's money that has been taken by the government that is not even paid. Let's say for suppliers who are private, who are supplying the government, they are not paid, and then the banks are not willing to lend to these private people, because you rather lend to a government than lend to these private personnel. So literally, there's a lot of funding competition between the government and the people. But when you look at the reforms, I looked at most of the reforms, and it was, there are a lot that you want to be happy about.
Okay.
But then, if I'm to give you just part of what was highlighted, I see there was a repeal of withholding tax payments from winnings on gamings. So people were doing
into the gaming business.
The gaming business. That is a win for them. And then when you look at it, then on the other side, like there is now excise duty on water. Like for every mineral bottle that you buy now, there is
we have quite a number of companies now selling, refined water.
So literally, we are happy. We are not boiling water anymore. You just go buy a bottle. But then now, someone has seen that this is something I could tax. So literally, there are a lot of wins and losses here. But I know it is all to the benefit of the society, because where will the government get money from if we don't pay taxes?
I know. Tax compliance has always been, the bigger picture here in everything we do. But looking at Ugandans, the business community per se, at the start of the year, you get to realize most of the people who close businesses at the start of the year are saying, it seems the cost of business in Uganda is high. But we are seeing many people opening up shops, opening up businesses and everything. People going in for loans to open up businesses or set up businesses. What do you think should clearly be done? Now, we are looking at it in the business angle to support our businesses, because we want to support businesses in Uganda, really. The regulations that are being set up, especially those which are actually being driven towards the economic well-being of the country, to enhance productivity and lead to development. How do we create policies that are going to be beneficial to our Ugandan people? I just want to understand this as a normal citizen, really. What should be done to ensure that we create policies that are more comfortable for the Ugandans to fit in?
I'll basically tell you this. It's very hard to make everyone comfortable.
Yeah, that's very true.
So literally, we may want something so badly, but then, like I told you, I want to pay the least tax possible. I'll look for any way of maybe evasion or whatever.
Yeah.
But then, I'll just tell you, the government is also looking at maximizing tax. So when you look at the policies that are being set, I think now let's look at something that has been given a lot of money in the budget. That was okay. It's not unexpected, but when you look at the parish development model,
that is to lift livelihood.
Yes, livelihood. So we have people who are literally, let's say they are. They are calling them the 39%. Yeah, the 39%.
Those who are supposed to get into the money economy.
In the money economy. So literally, 1.1 trillion has been allocated, and I think the motive behind this is, if these people have the purchasing power, probably they could now be able to consume most of the goods in the economy. So the tax man is going to look at, I'm giving you this money to get you out of this position that I can create. I can create a consumer base whereby I could be able to boost my salary, my tax base. But I've seen the way URA is looking at like even what the targets that have been set, you're going to find they should be widening the tax base now. So if they're going to widen the tax base, what has to be done? They are going digital. Most of the things, actually, you expect this time around in this financial year, they're going to be very tax aggressive. And the businesses should be knowing that now, like, they are going to be more aggressive. You expect more audits, and they are going to be on our neck. Because now they have targets, but then the tax base, because I think out of the 7 million people that have to be paying taxes, effectively it's 2 million people who are paying taxes. So literally, when you see the gap between the 7 million and the 2 million, the 5 million people in there are not paying taxes as they should. So literally, to avoid tax evasion, you see they are going they are bringing a lot of digital management. they are doing a lot of tax administration, and this time around they're going to be very, very tax aggressive. So to make sure at least there is money that comes from the domestic taxes, but when you look at the reforms, I've seen most of them are not so pressing. They're not so pressing because I saw incentives like, let me give you one here.
Okay.
Now the DPP, before previously their incomes were taxed, but now they are now exempt from taxes. So that is a win to them. Just like the MPs allowances, so they are also now not taxed. So for a DPP now, they will be happy, I'm getting my money without taxation. So that is a win to them. And then there is amendments to the initial allowance regime. You know, there's that accounting part for initial allowances where this qualifies, the other don't qualify. So there are a lot of pulls and inserts. So they have repealed some of the policies, but then brought in some which are going to be useful. So, but the motive is to make sure at least we get, I think if you remember the budget theme for Uganda, I don't know if I can get it here, don't have it off edge. The theme was full monetization of Uganda's economy through commercial agriculture, industrialization, expanding and broadening services, digital transformation and market access. So literally, you look at the budget was all looking at making sure at least we do commercial agriculture. That's why you see parish development model is going to be something that are going to be looking at closely. And then the reforms that have been put in place to make sure at least people get market access. I think when there is a market amendment bill that has been passed, I think it was also signed in this financial year, but I think it's basically going to be on the tax man this time around,
well, obviously, because when you look at, you've actually mentioned on the theme of the budget here, but there's something about expanding and broadening services. Takes me back to understanding, you know, the services sector plays a pivotal role in Uganda's economy today. It is a direct, you know, it is actually some of the players in the services sector non-taxed. Sure. Because their money is not, it's just clear-cut money, it's just handover money. How you know, you get to realize that it affects us in a way of tax mobilization. How? Because you're not tracing how the money is actually being used somehow. We've seen many people in the services sector now, for example, you know, me going out somewhere to moderate an event and they pay me cash. There is no one who's going to trace where my money is going.
No,
how I've got that money.
But literally, the person paying you probably they will account for that money somewhere.
Yes, they will account for that money somewhere. But you get to realize that again, Uganda Revenue Authority still wants that money taxed.
Yeah, sure. Actually, what they are doing, I've seen most of the reforms are looking at withholding, actually getting tax in advance.
Yes.
That's they put a lot of withholding tax here, withholding VAT, withholding.
So that at least they can still
so that whenever you're paying someone, they can tap on that money. So it's easier to track someone who has been withheld from. So when you pay me 1 million and then you withhold 6% on a service, probably you're gonna even also can be able to see
the 6%
where did this person go. So it's easier to track that person. So I think they are looking at. That's why you see they are bringing in a lot of digitalization. You see now e-receipting, and now there is e-freeze invoice. So they are trying to get into things that way because literally I see they are investing a lot of ICT and they like literally that's some strategy they are using. So going forward, I think it won't be so easy to do tax evasion. So the businesses should just prepare and organize themselves because there are a lot of laws and regulations in the income tax that can make you pay tax that you have to pay. But then when you mess around, you may pay tax that you don't have to pay. So I think it's always better to just follow how the law prescribes things and then you do them the right way and you're safe.
All right, when we do return after the break, I want us to look at the enforcement strategies that should be laid by the government and, of course, by the policymakers to ensure that these regulations are followed by the Ugandans, because at times you realize that some of the Ugandans have less information about the laws that are put in place or some of the regulations that are definitely being worked on. Then also we shall be getting a few of the recommendations from you and also furthermore getting to understand the business climate as it is now in this particular financial year. that we've just started. It's just 1 month, only a week, by the way, if you look at the situation that we are in into the financial year. But well, of course, as we're heading to the break, the Zabu platform is here for you to kickstart off your investment earlier. *292# is the USSD code that you need to use to kickstart off the investment, and kickstart off the investment by using your national identification number to register. Zabu is a platform powered by Altex East Africa, which reminds you to do something new. Well, with something new can you do today? Invest and grow your investments with Zabu. Zabu is a platform which is powered by Altex East Africa. Altex East Africa says do something new. Markets are only fully closed during the weekends and on public holidays. After the break, we return with more conversations here on our Business Insight. Stick around.
Smart 24, driving business.
Uganda waranchi batusako manrane chikona tena tekobo seko season yakuna savu July kuma Mount Papa's Hall usasule kwa MTN mobile money usasule kwa mchitundu MTN usasule nega 15 niga stemu kagatano stamu enda munana hasha kwa MTN ufune tiketi yokati wabona kumliango usasule mitwale 2 yepe mitwale 5 atemeza ya milioni 2 munana July koni ni hotel mkono mwenda July ni Can Resort Airways 15 July France Africa Jinja 2 July Maria Flema Saka 2 July Afro Club Eka Sangati ate yo noku yingi na mutwalo wafujinidwa musente Talent Africa Victoria University Suzu Property Consultants Pepsi Max Uganda Warranty ne
MTN. Say goodbye to paperwork and travel costs. Now every MTN customer can register to invest in securities anytime and anywhere with Zabu in a few simple steps. Step 1. Dial *292#. Step 2. Select option 1. Register with Zabu. Step 3. Enter your full names. Step 4. Enter your national identification number. Step 5. Enter your national identification card number. In 24 hours, you will receive an SMS confirming your registration. Congratulations, you are now ready to invest.
It's our mission to secure your money.
Protecting your money is as important as earning it. It is for this reason that the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda, DPF, was established by the government of Uganda to provide deposit protection to customers of regulated financial institutions. In the unlikely event that your commercial bank, credit institution, or microfinance deposit-taking institution fails, the DPF will pay you up to 10 million Uganda shillings. Keep your personal information such as national identification number, mobile phone, or an alternative bank account updated with your banker. Terms and conditions apply. For more information, contact DPF at Aha Towers, Plot 7 Lodell Road, Kampala. Call 0312 206 400 or visit our website at www.dpf.or.ug.
We are the DPF. We protect your money. Protection Fund of Uganda.
Saving or securing for the future does not only mean investing in stocks, real estates, or companies, but there are so many chances of becoming a billionaire through practicing agriculture. You don't need a very big plot of land or large capital to start, but slowly by slowly you can build an empire. Uganda's economy is made up of agriculture, services, and industry sectors. But agriculture comes out as the backbone of Uganda, employing 70% of the population and contributing half of the country's exports and earnings. Agriculture being the main supplier of raw materials for several companies, and it's readily marketed both in urban and rural areas. There are so many chances of the next billionaires coming from agriculture. the farmers to the processors, from the processors to the traders, and from the traders to the final consumers. We shall be taking you through the whole agriculture chain. My name is Chris Chitaka Haman, and this is Farm Smart, showing every Friday 7 to 8 p.m. only on Smart 24 TV, driving business.
Smart 24, driving business.
All right, are we in back here? Yes, we are. Okay, and we are getting into our final part of the discussion this morning, but there is something more important that we are having here in the discussion, which is rotating around how you will comply to these regulations, by the way, as a Ugandan. Because at times, citizens of various countries, we've seen what is happening in Kenya, and of course, the people in Kenya actually having their issues with the just recently signed finance bill of 2023, and of course, led by the leader of opposition in Kenya, Raila Odinga, who is actually going against the government. But of course, there's some of the other Kenyans who are not willing to comply with what the government has asserted into law. Clearly, that shows you how much of an impact it means when people don't want to comply with the regulations that have been put in place. So you following up on these regulations and the policies that are being made makes you, behind the accountability purposes of what the country is doing and what the country is looking forward to achieving. But besides that, we'll be back from the break. Let's continue with our conversations here as we continue to look at the government regulations furthermore and trying to understand how the financial year will definitely go through and how we Ugandans can easily be part of these conversations. I'm still with Kiza Francis this morning as we continue having our conversations here in one way or the other. Now, Francis, as we continue with these conversations, when you look at the enforcement strategies, what do you think, or what should the government take keynote of to ensure that Ugandans, which strategies can we employ as a country, by the way, to ensure that these regulations are followed by the Ugandans, to make sure that Ugandans comply to one tax payment, to ensuring that they don't go astray from the various particular laws that have actually been asserted to already?
Literally, when you look at the situation now, I think what has to be done mainly is sensitization, that is mindset change, because paying tax shouldn't be something that it's not a bad thing to do. When you are like literally you have to pay tax. Because literally, it's the only way government has to raise money. We are having a soaring debt position as a country.
Yes, very true.
So literally, if we want the government to get out of debt, then people should be complying to paying taxes. So when you look at the strategies laid down by URA, I think they are making sure they do more of tax administration, proper tax administration, and better service delivery. And then I've seen they've put a lot of emphasis on using ICT, whereby now you see I've seen on TVs, radios, in Paris City, Paris City. So all that move is to bring the mindset of people like to where we are going.
Yeah.
But literally, tax evasion, I think, will be something that someone has to keep away from, because if at all, like with the penalties that are being laid up for not doing that, not doing the other, I think it is not going to be necessary for someone to want to evade taxes, tax payment.
Yeah.
So literally, I think the strategy is being laid down by government and URA. I see there is rationalization of the tax exemptions. I've seen exemptions being put. I think there is now the microfinance and money lending circles, whatever, I saw they were exempted from the cap interest, sort of like there's that cap they put on their interest, so now they are exempted. So literally, there are a lot of exemptions, but national of tax exemptions to the investors and the local investors and the foreign investors. I think it's always a strategy to make sure at least they boost the economy and then be able to collect taxes. But for us as natives, if someone asked me what would you think the government would do to make sure at least we have a proper tax base, or okay, they are widening the tax base, we understand, but then we already know clearly there is a 7 million people number that has to pay taxes, but you are collecting taxes from just 2 million. So literally, the widening of tax base has to be something they should be prioritizing. But I looked at, there's something that has been burning in my head, like all through, I see all the policies being made.
Yes.
But I know us as Ugandans, we are stubborn people. We are very stubborn. And most of people you see, they don't want to comply. So I think instead of us like debating on whether water should be taxed, whether these mixed, like for animal feeds should be taxed, I think there are a lot of penalties that could be put aside for people who are stubborn. Okay. I'm always on the road when you're driving. You will see
someone trying to trespass.
They are telling you keep left unless overtaking. Someone is driving at 10 kilometers per hour, but he's on the right. So literally, I think there is a way government has to look at things that where someone could pay tax without even, like when it's, you have to, I've seen people like driving, it's in a jam and someone is just going through. I've seen some foreign countries, there is no interface between someone who is giving a receipt for violating a regulation, but it is just, it immediately comes to your phone. When you're driving at you are driving at a fast speed, and then like this, the receipt just comes on your phone, and it's income. That's tax already collected. It's money collected by the government. And given the number of people here who are very stubborn, I think if we could just focus on making sure at least people comply with the regulations in form of penalties here and there, but literally to avoid interface with people, because most times people mindset is different. A machine will understand. They told me 80 kilometers per hour at this junction. Whenever you pass and you're at 100, you just get to pay something. And then the other thing I think I saw in Rwanda, there's a way whenever they give you, let's say, a receipt, let's say for a violation of a regulation in the road, and then every particular day, like you've not paid, interest continues to accrue on the amount of money you had to pay. So literally, here we have a lot of people who are very stubborn. Like let's tax things like that. Okay, but then I think for the strategies being laid by URA, it's going to be mainly to make sure they widen the tax base through sensitization, and then I've seen there are incentives. Like you saw one where they are saying if you pay all your tax arrears by December, then they waive all the penalties. So these are just strategies to make sure at least now they collect whatever money they owe into the society. So I think we shall be seeing more of an aggressive tax collection in the regime this time around, because the targets are huge and the economy is not that good.
You've mentioned something to do with digital transformation, and it has actually crossed my mind that we as a country need to focus on the digital drive so much, because when you look at other countries across Africa, their attention to the digital economy is very fast than ours here. We are moving at a slower pace. I think it's because of, when you even look at the pushers of this, including let's look at the internet costs that are also high. But what do you think should be done to at least ensure that Ugandans tap into the digital space? Because at least now everyone can access a smartphone, by the way. And smartphones are now as cheap as 200,000. It only depends on the qualities of one, but at least anyone can access a smartphone.
Yeah, literally, when you look at, I've been assessing things, and you see digital transformation here has been a problem. I think something I saw in the budget still, a call from Tanzania, was it from Tanzania that was now waived? I think it was at $90 per incoming call, and then they script it off. So literally, I think government is also taking measures to see that digitalization comes into place. One thing that I'm positive about, I've seen now banking is changing. Like you mentioned, people no longer want to go to make lines in the banks, but then there are those who are still skeptical. What if that agent banker doesn't put my money there? What if, you understand, they are still skeptical. So there's a lot of more sensitivity.
Because of that security matters, the insecurity when it comes
there's
to...
a lot of insecurity. Yes. So and then internet, yes, our internet is very expensive compared to our neighbors, even if you are in Chigali, wherever. And then you see we don't have a lot of fiber internet here. So basically we are using MTN, Airtel internet. Almost most of the people use that kind of internet. We don't use much of the fiber. So I think what has to be done is to make sure we adopt these things as they come. Okay. We adopt them as they come, because you would want to run away from it at any particular time to catch up with you. Because you saw during COVID, we had to work at home. Okay, and then that's when you see people are now adopting the Zoom meetings, the Teams. But prior to that, you could tell someone, let's have a Zoom meeting. I have to see you in person. But then COVID tells you, and it shows you, like, literally, you don't have to see someone in person. Let's use the digital measures that we have. And then it shows you how we have to move fast enough to adopt technology as it comes. Yeah.
Well, of course, now this brings me to the recommendations you have. You're into the financial space a little bit more. Most of the Ugandans have less information about the financial understanding of business, by the way, because of they take less time to get more literacy skills when it comes to financial matters. Their main focus is, if I'm making my money, I have my business and it's generating me this amount of money at the end of the day, I'm good to go. We are in a world that is actually evolving so much that you need to be very accountable for every little penny you earn. Or, you as an individual, first of all, you need to be accountable to yourself before you even get into government, before you even question government about its accountability levels. For the government, part of it is on the policy alignment. They want to make sure you bring in the taxes, they provide services. If you don't pay the taxes, you're bound to lose out on these public services. But let's look at independent business people financially. How do we, enlarge in our financial base, and how do we greatly use that to contribute to our country's growth?
I'll gladly tell you that most of the businesses, most of the successful businesses, like I've seen here, the owners are not, they don't have financial background, and most of them, they didn't have to have a lot of studying to do. Yeah, you see most of the CEOs for some big companies. You've seen. Okay, I won't mention names, but literally you will see most of them didn't have to waste a lot of time with studying. So literally, that's when they will hire people who have gone to school. For him, he will have an idea, he will dance it, and then he makes sure it grows, and then he hires someone who has gone to study these things. But literally, financial literacy is a must, for any business to survive. So I always urge most of the CEOs to actually get involved in understanding how finance is done in the business. You'll find you have an accountant today and is filing your tax income, like the income returns to URA, but then he's making errors, and then you don't know. But then at the end of the day, they come and then it's you to pay. So literally, you have to get involved into understanding how finances are being done. You may not need to understand how they prepare the financial statements, but you have to understand when they say, this is my profit, what does it mean? And when you tell me, I made a loss here, what does it mean? And where am I going? But there are a lot of things that have to be done for businesses to survive and to make sure financially they are stable. there is all business planning that has to be done comprehensively.
Yes.
People always keep that idea unless they go to banks to borrow money. That's when someone comes, hey, bank has asked to be for business plan and I need this to be prepared. But usually for any business, if you starting up a business, you have a plan. You may not have it on paper, but you have it in your head. So usually the whole thing is to get that plan out of your head and then put it on paper, and then have people who can analyze whatever ideas have been in your head and then advise you accordingly, so that you can sustain the business. Most businesses boom at the start, if you always see them.
Okay.
I've seen restaurants, bars, supermarkets, when they are new, when they have just started, they are booming. But then in the long run, you see they start deteriorating. Things go, like they start going down, and then like you worry what has happened to this kind of a business. But basically I know it's on the planning stage. Because, of course, customers will come when something is new. They want to embrace it, they want to receive it. But then when probably there is something they're not getting that they expected, and then they retract. They will go away.
I know.
So literally, what I think is, let us avoid saying those are things of accountants, those are things of the financial managers. You have to get involved and understand how things are.
You need to get into the groundwork.
Yes, you have to understand. You give it time, and then you get to the nitty-gritties. This profit means this and this and this. If I'm making a loss, and in the next financial year I won't be able to survive, so I need to capitalize like this. And so these things you should get. Insights are in most of the financial advisory firms. Yes. You can always get that kind of advice, but you can be able to when you really want to understand. But if you run away from it, the repercussions catch up with you.
Well, Kiza, you're ideally practical in the financial part now.
Yeah.
And I wish to understand, what do you think in this financial year, there is a new financial year, more policies are being made to make sure that in the upcoming financial year 2024-2025 things will be better for Ugandans. My question is, what regulations do you think we should now be working on and that you think now we should focus on, or what the government should initiate at the end of this financial year?
Basically, I think for all the bills I've seen, I think okay, there are a lot of things that were scrapped off and they were important to some of the businesses.
Yes.
You saw the industrial building allowances, and there's this when you invest in the 50-kilometer around Kampala,
yes,
there are some tax incentives that you could be able to adopt into your financials, and then you recover some of the expenditures. So literally, when you scrap off some of those things, I think it is not to our advantage. Sometimes the investors who would want to go maybe 50 kilometers, that is around, maybe I want to go and invest in Mitiana. Some why do I go to Mitiana when I'm earning nothing? I'd rather come to Kampala. So literally, regional developments will be now limited. So I think basically we should be adopting more of reforms or regulations that tend to make sure society is, yes, compliant with paying of tax, yes, but then supporting these private companies, the private sector, because literally most of the government entities, you will see government employees probably are not paying this and that. Some are exempted from these taxes. So let's look at reforms that promote the private sector.
Okay.
Because now from the private sector, so many people are taxed, but then it is stiff. There is stiff competition. Okay. You've seen there is also competition with foreign firms. Let's say now like in the infrastructure development sector, where you see there's a lot of money, and then you find most of the contracts are being done by foreign companies. So I think that we should be looking at reforms that can make sure at least we control these sectors, especially to make sure the private sector booms. Because when you have the private sector booming and the government revenues also are being generated as per plan, you see we can have the debt position of the country go down. Okay. So literally, I think most of the reforms should be concentrating on making sure at least the private sector is supported manually.
Oh, okay. And of course, as we are summing up with our conversation this morning, your final remarks?
I think I'm happy. I'm happy for One, I've seen what the government is trying to do for our communities, the parish development model. Much as we have a lot of pools here and there, but I think it's something that's going to help our societies. Because but then, you know, whenever you have a funding gap, and when you look at a government having a funding gap, you will see most of these, I would say necessity, like the things that they should put a lot of emphasis on, like health, education.
Yes.
You see they are not being funded the way they should, and then which will cause people who have gotten this money in the parish development model, someone will get the money from the circle that they are formed, and then you find them taking it to the hospital, to the private hospital, to go now take care of themselves. So we may not achieve what we want to achieve. So literally,
yes.
I think what we have to do is let's support the government with paying taxes, and then let's like there's a tax base that has to be widened, and you expect it's going to be a pretty aggressive period. URA is going to be doing a lot of audits. You expect them here and there. They are going to be on people's neck.
Okay.
So literally, my advice is let all business be aware that this is going to be hard.
Okay.
Yeah.
And of course, our conversations now come to bed this early morning, 10 minutes to the top of the hour. Coming up is Financial Markets with Anthony Sebali and Gloria Nampija. I think if you want to definitely join the conversations, you'll definitely be part of their kind of situation as well. So stick your eyes onto Smart 24 television. But well, besides that, my guest this morning has been Kiza Francis, the CEO of Keys Financial Advisors Limited. And of course, we have been generally having a conversations rotating around regulations in regards to Uganda's new financial year 2023-2024. I'm Joram Paul Sonko, and was with Andrew Barija here this morning to drive your business as early as possible. As we are signing out this morning, remember to grow your investments with the Zabo platform. *292# is the USSD code that you need to use to kickstart off your investment. Zabo says, "My money, my future." Altex East Africa reminds you to do something new. Now, which something new can you do today is kickstart off your investment with the Zabo platform and easily invest as much as you can with just a minimum of 15,000 Ugandan shillings. Zabo, my money, my future. Altex East Africa, do something new. It's Tuesday, the 11th of July, 2023, and it's right for us to say good morning and wish you all the best for today.
Up next on Smart 24 TV.